You're going live with the best pro wrestling community in the world. A safe space for all wrestling fans to come together and love pro wrestling. You have now entered the Mark
What's
Zone.
going on, everyone? Welcome to the Mark Zone. I am SMA, and this is a community that you've been looking for. If you're new to the show, this is a pro wrestling community where you can voice your opinions and your questions without the abuse, without the bullshit. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the YouTube stream for the video as well. Drop your comments and chat with the community. I can see the usual is always starting it off. Thanks, Doug and Aaron. Thank you for that. We'll get to your comments in a second. So join the community chat, everyone. Thanks. Yeah, just got a new intro. Just made that the other day. So hopefully you like that, guys. Thanks, Aaron. On today's show, on today's Mark Zone, so we have a fair bit to talk about. A lot of it is going to be centered around the Summerslam and All-In builds coming up over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We've got those shows coming up within the next month. So they're shaping up to be, obviously these are some of the marquee events for each company. And if you're looking on paper, the cards are going to be really good. And it's no wonder that they're doing that as well with the ticket sales. So we'll talk about that. So the road to Summerslam and All In, we've got new champions with CM Punk and Kenny Omega. Were they the right moves? And going forward, are they going to be the right moves? The ticket sales lacking, we'll talk about that. Baron Corbin, he returned to the WWE, and then we saw the vignette last night with Big Cass, and we can only assume that Enzo will be joining him as well. So they will be coming. The rumor is that Enzo is actually going to be returning at Saturday night's main event. And then Cass has already released a date, the Raw after SummerSlam. So we'll see with that. Obviously, one of the big stories coming out of this week, and something that I commented on a lot and released a video on, which did quite well so far, was the CM Punk fan interaction with the kid. And obviously, I've spoken about that before with my experiences there. So we'll touch on that a little bit, not to rehash that too much. And then obviously your chat and discussion. So thanks everyone for joining us. So Doug, AEW looks like it has to build the Redemption show entirely new tomorrow night. Yeah, we'll talk about that. The road to Redemption and obviously the road to All In and where that's heading with AEW. Hello to Aaron, hello to Doug, and hello to my friend Adam from Adelaide. Morning. Good morning, guys. So other news as well that we'll touch on. So it's been released today from a report from Fightful that Keith Lee is basically retired. Now, he's obviously had his health issues over the past probably close to 3 years now that we haven't seen him. So he's been on and off. The rumor was that he's had a lot of heart issues since he, I believe, got COVID a few years ago. And obviously with his size, and he had some heart problems before as well when he was with the WWE. So that did play a big role in that. And apparently he is going to have to retire. Another little tidbit there, Michin actually replied to someone on Instagram, I believe it was, saying that they're no longer together and they're divorced. So that's another story there for Keith Lee. But I thought we'd start with WWE Raw last night and the road to SummerSlam. Now, WWE is obviously panicking a little bit due to the ticket sales with SummerSlam. Now, the 2-night event, I think for WrestleMania it may work. It does work. Obviously, this year there was a bit of a lull in the sales compared to last year, but they did go back to the same spot in Vegas, and Vegas is always notoriously hard to sell tickets anyway. So they were panicking a little bit going into Minnesota now. If you're looking on paper, the card on paper is actually a really, really good one, and I think they're actually doing quite a good job to build to SummerSlam. And I thought Raw last night was one of, if not one of the best Raws of the year for me. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. They touched on everything they needed to touch on. They built what they needed to build. Obviously, the start of the show, Brock Lesnar over Femi starting off hot. That was a good way to open the show. And then obviously the ending of the show was really good. So open with a promo, close with a promo. And I don't usually like closing with segments that aren't matches, but this did serve a purpose and it did further these storylines. Now, from the start of the show, you had Obafemi and Brock Lesnar starting the show. Now, one thing that I think that they've got wrong in this feud, not wrong, but that it could be better, is I don't think in this feud, when you got two big meaty guys, two big monsters, two guys that are just, it's just more, it's a pissing contest. Who's a stronger guy? Who's a bigger guy? Who's going to destroy one another, right? I don't think Paul Heyman serves a purpose in this feud right now. So we come out, Paul Heyman is doing all the talking. He's doing the promo. Now, Brock Lesnar, since he's returned, has shown that he can cut a good promo. He's got a little bit of comedy aspects to him as well here and there. In this feud, it's not going to be needed because obviously it's more of a, again, like a dick measuring contest. Who's the biggest and baddest? I think it would be much better served Brock Lesnar picking up the mic, Brock Lesnar doing all the talking. And in a scenario like this, where it's these two big guys, we don't need a whole backstory. We don't need anything to really, we don't need real storytelling aspects in the promos or anything like that. All we need is, I'm going to beat your ass. This is how much I'm going to destroy you. You're a pussy. Like whatever it is, that type of promo. And Brock Lesnar can deliver that. It's going to be much more impactful for Brock Lesnar to do that than have Paul Heyman as a mouthpiece and have Brock just standing there as he normally does. I don't think Heyman serves a purpose in this feud at all. I really don't. Obafemi comes out and he cut a good promo as well. Now, one of the main talking points from this promo was the fact that he mentioned about not getting the title shot and not taking the title shot. Now, from what I understood with that, what he said was he didn't. There was a lot of rumors on, well, a lot of reports and people aggregating reports online after he said that he said that he relinquished the title shot to go after Brock. I didn't read it like that. That's not what I took from the promo. The promo was, I've put the title shot on the back burner because you were going to cost me the title shot anyway, so I'm going to deal with you first. That's how I understood it. And he's going to go back to it, which only makes sense. If he does actually relinquish it and he doesn't even get a title shot at all, then that's just fucking completely stupid. And that makes absolutely no sense. And that was the main criticism coming out of the King of the Ring tournament, where we thought, what is going on here? Why is he going after Brock? Why is he putting the championship on the back burner? What does it say about the importance of the championship, where he doesn't give a fuck about it? He just wants to finish off this feud. So I hope he doesn't actually relinquish it. It's more of a putting it on the back burner. So that's how, I don't know how you guys understood that promo, but that's how I understood the promo. Aaron, 100% amazing show. Yeah, Aaron, we talked about that on Twitter yesterday. I thought it was a great show. Adam, how much do you think cost is to do with things? Like WWE tickets are insanely costly. AEW tickets might be affordable, but London as a city is fucking expensive. I know I used to live there. Now, I haven't been to London. I've heard it's very, very expensive. I don't think the WWE can use ticket sales as an excuse for SummerSlam right now, because if we're looking at the SummerSlam tickets, you can actually get into SummerSlam for about $75. So I can't recall a WWE event, especially a PLE, where it's been that cheap ever. So obviously they at the start they weren't that price, but they've dropped it because they're at about, if we look here, I knew I was going to share the wrong screen. Move that over. If we look here, that's all in. So SummerSlam. So the latest update from WrestleTix was about 22,000 for night one. And I think night two was about 23 or 24,000. So that's the current map there. So as you can see, they're struggling. They're struggling quite a bit. So basically, should both companies just look to cheaper places to go, like Aberdeen? I think it's been good to get Heyman away from the Vision now, though, and that's a fair point regarding the cost of WWE. So I'll speak to those in a second, Aaron and Adam. So yeah, this is a SummerSlam map, and we will talk about the All-In map as well. Don't worry about that, because they are also struggling. But from what I can see with the WWE, they're putting on if we're looking at the card here, so let's just go through the card for SummerSlam at the moment. Before I do that, I'll read your comments again. So Adam, basically, should both companies go to cheap places to go, like Aberdeen? I think, so Tony Khan has this obsession with London. He's said hundreds of times, London's his favorite city on earth. Obviously, AEW does very, very good in the UK. They're very, very popular. London is a place, I've said the whole time that it was the wrong move. So let's just look at the All-In tickets while we're talking about that. So I said the whole time that it was the wrong move going back to Wembley. I thought it was a big, big overshot going back to Wembley Stadium this year. If they wanted to go back to the UK, that's fine, but it should be a smaller stadium. I understand it's hard with the weather over there, that you need a stadium with a roof and you need a bit more kind of security in that regard because the weather's obviously always unpredictable over there. And correct me if I'm wrong, Adam. I know you're from Scotland. I think Scotland's even worse, if I'm not wrong, in terms of the weather being cold and raining and all that type of stuff. So that is an issue. But I don't think Wembley, they should pretty much even ever go there again. If they do, it should be like well down the road, like 5 years down the road, where they establish themselves a little bit more and they get a little bit more kind of hype around them. I'm not as worried about Wembley Stadium at the moment. As you can see, they're close to, this was last week, I think this update was. So yeah, this was last week. So they'll be closer to the 30,000 mark. The stadium's set up for about 37, but still, this is my point with Wembley and SummerSlam as well. But we'll talk about Wembley for now. Even if they go back and if they have a big push with these ticket sales and they reach, say, 40, 45,000, the stadium's still half empty. So it's a good number. It's a very good number. Nobody's saying it's not a good number, but just aesthetically, it doesn't look great. It really doesn't. And there's no reason to go back there. There really is no reason. Just go to a smaller stadium. Pack out a stadium with 25,000. Like, that's fine. 20,000. It's still going to be a massive event. The O2 is probably too small. Go to a smaller soccer stadium. Doesn't have to be in London. It can be somewhere. Go to Manchester. Go back to Manchester. Do something in that kind of aspect. I think Wembley was a big kind of overshot. Scotland's not worse in August. London only makes sense in like March. I mean, it's currently 25 degrees here. Scotland has 2 good days of weather each year. So it's pretty cold here in Australia, but not Scotland and England cold. So that's Wembley. Now, going back to SummerSlam, they're struggling a lot more, right? They're going to struggle to probably hit 35,000. Now, this is literally 50% less than what they did last year. I made this point as well when it comes to SummerSlam because it is a 2-night event. Now, when you're looking at the event over 2 nights and they say we sold 70,000 tickets, that's great. You sold 70,000 tickets. But if we're talking about actual individual fans and individual people, over the 2 days, AEW is probably going to sell more tickets, more individual wrestling fans in 1 day than they're going to get over 2 days. And what I mean by that is they sell combo tickets. Obviously, if you're going to SummerSlam, you're going to go to both nights. So the 35,000 that go on night 1 and the, say, 40,000 that go on night 2 because it's a bigger event, you're going to have 5 to 10,000 that might only go to 1 night and the rest have been there for both nights. So if we're talking individual fans, it's not 70,000. It's more like 35 to 40,000 in total. So it's actually a more worrying issue if you look at it that way in terms of individual fans. If you look at AEW at All In, obviously it's a 1-night event. So whoever comes to that event, that's what you count. It's going to end up being 35, 40,000 people. So it is especially more worrying for the WWE because it's SummerSlam as well. SummerSlam is their marquee event. This is not Backlash. This is not Clash in the Castle or something like that. This is SummerSlam. This is their number 2. This is like the AEW's. If it was on AEW side, it would be there's All In and then there's probably Revolution. They're probably the 2 kind of main pay-per-views, and you've got the other ones, right? So this is very concerning for the WWE, and they obviously know that. They've dropped the ticket sales prices, which is a price that they should be at anyway. That's the good thing about Wembley as well, and it's probably one of the things that obviously we all know AEW tickets are much more affordable. I think you can get into Wembley Stadium for about $40 or £40 or whatever it is, £35. So the prices are much more acceptable over there. But as I said, looking at the card for SummerSlam, if you just look down the card, you're looking at it and you're thinking, fuck, this is a really good card so far. Obviously, there's 2 nights and they're going to announce probably 5 matches. I'd say they've announced 6 so far. So if you're looking on paper, you've got Liv Morgan, Io Sky. Liv Morgan has had probably the worst world title reign in recent memory. It's been worse than Jade's, in my opinion. She's done absolutely nothing. The women's world title scene at the moment is quite concerning. I'll quickly run down the card here and I'll get back to them. Obafemi and Brock Lesnar. So we spoke about that. That's probably going to steal the show. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. They had a very good segment last night. Very good segment. And Roman actually really came out on top there. Seth kind of got geeked out a little bit there. That's going to be a good match. There's going to be tons of story that is built into that as well. And they're going to play off their history. Penta and Chad Gable. Now, if Chad Gable lost last night, I was going to fucking flip my shit. But thankfully, they did the right thing. And coming out of that El Grande Americano feud, I thought Chad Gable coming out of that was as cold as he's ever been. Got the new theme song. No one really cared. But obviously, they were leading to this IC title match in Minnesota, and he's going to win. It's going to be a win. It's going to be a big win, and that's exactly what they should do. Penta should be moving on from the IC title scene, and they need to get in with his brother and reignite the tag team division, get the Lucha Bros back together. CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, this is going to have it's going to have a ton of story built into this as well. I don't know if they mentioned the AEW side of things as well. It's going to be a good match. On paper, it's going to be a marquee match. I think these two in the ring together, I think it's just going to be, they're good, very good storytellers, but I think they're just quite boring for me. And then another guy that I really, really feel sorry for, LA Knight. The poor guy cannot escape the Vision and the Bloodline. The guy's in his vortex for the past 3 years and have completely missed the boat on his entire hype and his entire momentum. LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce Keys versus the Bloodline, Jacob Fatu, and Jimmy and Jay. Now, does this make sense? A little bit, yes. Is it interesting? Not really, no. It doesn't. It's just thrown together for me. Adam, got to say, they're best up in Clash in the Castle after Carter from Glasgow, but not giving Drew the belt, especially the Glasgow one where they played into the... Yes, 100%. This was a pattern that they've been falling in for a long time, Adam. And I've spoke about this at length for ages. The guys that we want to see in the title scene, the guys that we want to see push, like Drew McIntyre, like LA Knight, and even in the women's division, girls like Chelsea Green, they refuse to push these people or give them meaningful title runs. Drew finally got the belt. They did it at the wrong time. Same with Sami Zayn. They did it at the wrong time, and Drew held the belt for like 2 months. Sami Zayn held it for a week. So they're too scared to move off the guys that they bank on all the time. Roman, Seth, Cody, CM Punk. And they're too scared to give anyone else meaningful runs because they don't want to. They see them as the money makers, and that's it. They're just not moving on from them. They're holding people down. Who knows what's going to happen with Obafemi? Bron Breakker is just completely fallen by the wayside with the Vision. The poor guy's stuck in that whole thing where he should be in the title scene right now, and it's just a mess. Adam, I was at Cardiff. Drew winning would have been huge and should have happened. Him singing with Tyson Fury after made it worse. Yeah, that was a bit weird, wasn't it? Lucha Bros together will save the WWE's tag division. I've been saying that for a long time, Adam. And I'm not surprised seeing like Triple H was just following Vince's booking. So, the women's division. So, Liv Morgan and Io Sky. So, that's going to be a great match. That really is going to be a good match. I think Liv Morgan, now, I said something like this on my Twitter the other day, yesterday, after Raw, saying who's going to have the better career when it's all said and done, Raquel Rodriguez or Roxanne Perez. When I thought about that a little bit more, I actually think both of those women have a lot more potential than Liv Morgan does. Liv Morgan, for me, she's very annoying, number one. I know that's her character and all that. I don't see her doing anything in the ring that's too exciting. She's just, let's be honest, like she's just good to look at. She's a good promo and things like that. But I think in terms of potential, Roxanne and Raquel have a lot more potential than her. I think Raquel Rodriguez is someone that I hope in this match they pull the trigger on the Judgment today and we just finish that off completely. I really do. Now is the time. Raquel has to cost Liv the title, move it on to Io Sky, and then they finish off the Judgment Day. Liv and Raquel get the feud and Raquel gets the title run. That's how I think it should go. I really do. So I hope that they do that. But the women's division in a whole, both titles have just been held hostage with two champions that are doing nothing. Rhea Ripley has torn a meniscus, and she's going to be out for a while. They haven't stripped her of the belt. If it was anyone else, they would have been stripped within a week. Because it's Rhea Ripley, and again, goes back to the same problem that we've been having in the men's division for a long, long time. They don't want to move the belt off of the people that they can bank on. You're looking at the women's division here. Io Sky, she's had it before. Is she going to make print money for them? Probably not. But she is probably the best women's wrestler in the world and one of the best wrestlers, period, in the world. So moving on to her and getting it off Liv because I don't know if she's been injured or what, but she's barely wrestled. So that needs to move on. Looking on the SmackDown roster, who is there really that can take the title and run with it after if they strip Rhea. There's not too many people in there that they've got with meaningful momentum that can do it. I would love to see Chelsea Green get a run, but she's cooled off hugely since her whole like president kind of gimmick that she was doing. I love Chelsea Green. I think she's one of the most entertaining women in the entire industry in terms of the women. So I think that they should move it off Rhea, but the women's division really needs to step up because they've really got no other challenges right now, unless they move people up from NXT. If Kendall Gray comes up and Fatal Influence has just moved up, and they Saturday Night's main event, they better win those tag team title belts. It just depends if Bree's coming back or not, if she's ready to come back, because obviously that's where it's gonna lead. Bree's gonna come back. They're gonna turn on Paige. Paige is gonna have a feud with them. Does anyone care about it? No, they don't. So again, SummerSlam card on paper is really, really good. So far, they've only announced 6 matches. There's going to be a fair bit more. But I think, to be very honest, take the crowd side out of it and the pricing and all of that stuff. I think if we, in a totality, after we look at SummerSlam, we're going to say this blew, much like SummerSlam last year, this blew WrestleMania out the water. That's what I think we're going to say after this. So that was the lead up to SummerSlam has changed a little bit, obviously because of the Sami Zayn situation and CM Punk getting the belt. Now, the Sami Zayn situation, we touched on this again last week. I think this is actually going to lead to a very, very good character arc for Sami Zayn. This is going to be a crash out Sami Zayn. He's already, last week, they did the angle where he's taking a mental health break, and he's going to be coming back to SmackDown this week. I would like to see him come back with a new look, shave his head, and just completely go nuts over what's happened to him and have a complete new character arc. I think he needs that after that, and it just makes sense. So I think that's where we're leading, and I hope that's where we're going. I don't want to see him being inserted into the title match at SummerSlam, but I can only assume I think he's actually going to probably interfere. We'll see what happens with Gunther as well. And Nick Aldis, because it looks like they're going to be announcing that match. I would love to see Nick Aldis in the ring. If you were a fan of TNA back in the day with Nick Magnus and his NWA run as well, he's a great wrestler. He really is a great wrestler. He's really good on the mic too. I think he's been very underutilized. Obviously he can wrestle. Obviously he still wants to wrestle. So this is a time to do it. He's obviously a lot older, and that is a problem with the title scenes at the moment in the WWE with the age problem, but he can add a lot, and him and Gunther are going to have a really, really good match. A lot of people don't like Gunther. I like him a lot. I really do. So I think that's really going to be good, and that's obviously going to pay off at SummerSlam, and who knows if they have a more kind of extended feud there. Aaron, how long do we think it's until Naomi returns, if she does? I lost track of the time frame for a pregnancy announcement. That is a good point as well. I was just thinking about that when I was reading off the women that could vie for it. I think she's been gone about a year. Now, has she had a baby yet? I don't even know if she's had a baby yet. Even if she has, I wouldn't say that she'd have the baby and come back straight away. Like, there's obviously a lot of mothering you have to do for that first year. So maybe she could. I don't know. That could be something that she pops up at SummerSlam. We all know Triple H loves a return pop, and he books for that. So that could be a bit of an angle, but it wouldn't really make sense in the Io Sky Liv Morgan match, even though that was the title she lost. It probably makes a lot more sense for her to come back and take Rhea's belt because Rhea's injured. So the belt's going to be up for grabs, and they can just move it off her, put it on her, and then they can start a Rhea and Naomi feud. So that would probably make a little bit more sense. Roxanne was made Ring of Honor champion at a young age for a reason. She has so much. She has so much to her character. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was she the first Ring of Honor champion? I think she was the first women's Ring of Honor champion. And at the time, I think she was about 19 or something like that. So, Ruby Soho is still gone, and Time Ellie took 2 years out. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of mothering they have to do even after the baby is born. So we'll see about that. I hope that during Nick Aldis and Gunther, we see Nick's wife, Mickie James, show up. That is a possibility. I don't know where she would fit into the story. I don't think she needs to. But again, with this kind of administration, the return pops is what they book for. Jarrod, my guy, states file injunction to block Paramount WB merger from closing while Law lawsuit proceeds. This merger drama would have been avoided if David Ellison and Trump would just stay out of the WBD business. Now, Jarrod, you mentioned this a few weeks ago on my channel. So you were all on top of this, saying that it's not going to go through. I thought it was going through, but it looks like it may not at the moment, because there is obviously that lawsuit going on, like you said. Now, there's going to be very interesting times for AEW. It really is going to be very interesting, because if the sale doesn't go through, it's probably more of a safer thing for AEW at the moment, because it buys them more time. You can look at it that way, because they're going to stay on TBS, TNT, and HBO Max, and nothing's going to change for the next, I think they've got 2 years left on their current deal. You could look at it from that perspective, but you could also look at it on a perspective where there's still going to be uncertainty. If the sale doesn't go through, someone else is going to buy them. Like they want to sell, someone's going to buy them. It's just a matter of who buys it. If it goes to Netflix or if it goes to someone else, which means it's still going to be uncertain for AEW, because if they lose another 6 months in this lawsuit, then it comes to a time where even a year down the road and they've got 6 months left on their deal and there's still no sale going through and there's still no uncertainty, then that's going to be a big problem. Because then by the time the merger goes through, there's nothing in place. If it happens now, the merger goes through and they've still got a year left on their contract, they've got a year for the Paramount to turn around and say, we're not renewing you. This is the offer we're going to give you if we do renew, and they can shop it around in time. So it's probably better off that this does go through, or they find a buyer very, very soon. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this whole scenario. She wasn't. She was Ring of Honor Championship, was on and off title, so technically she wasn't, sadly. Okay. I thought she was, I remember her winning that. Maybe that's when they brought it back. Roxy. Ring of Honor was never consistent with their women's division. So, but she has a lot of potential, Roxanne. And I think in terms of the booking with her, she's kind of stalled a bit in the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day just has to finish. It really does. For the men and the women in there, just tie a bow on this already and let's just move on. Finn Balor's already left. You've got the three women there, and JD and Dom are like, they're barely even there anymore. Dom is a guy, they've obviously put the strap on him, the AAA belt on him. This is obviously going to lead, well, it better lead to him feuding even more with El Grande Americano, putting the belt on him, because he's the most over guy in the world right now, in Mexico especially. Like, they just absolutely love the guy. And for good reason. He's done tremendous, tremendous work. So they can't really drop the ball on that. Dom has done absolutely nothing with that title anyway. Vikingo got injured as well, so that takes him out of the picture. So now is the time to put it on El Grande. Continue that story. And AAA is actually very enjoyable. I think Undertaker's doing a pretty good job over there. And to be honest, the WWE can learn a lot from him. There's a lot more characters down in AAA that you can work with as well. But it's more kind of circusy and the Mexican style, which kind of caters more towards that. But I think they need to move the belt off Dom, get rid of the Judgment Day. JD McDonough is actually a guy that he reminds me of, not like a Miz, but he's a guy that just, whatever is asked of him to do, he'll do it. No questions asked. He'll go out there and make the most of it. If it's just a spot to run in and just get destroyed and go through a table or whatever he has to do, no questions asked, he'll do it. He had an interview with Chris Van Vliet a while ago, and he said this exact same thing. It's a good attitude to have, especially in the WWE, where it's very, very cutthroat, and they can release you in 2 seconds, no matter what your contract says. Judgment Day needs to end. Unfortunately, Judgment Day is done. I can see JD McDonough doing nothing and getting released. He's a great wrestler, though. I don't think that they will release him based off what I just said, Aaron, because he's a guy that he makes the most of all his opportunities. He really does. I would hate to see him released because he doesn't deserve it. But again, with this company, who knows, right? So basically touching on that, if we're talking about releases, let's talk about the returns. So Baron Corbin is back in the WWE, returned on SmackDown last week to feud with Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes. So that's the angle they're putting him in. Now, putting him into the mid-card scene is great. I don't really see, like, I like Baron Corbin. I really do. He's a good big guy. He's actually very entertaining. We saw him with his character arcs with the Broke Corbin and the Happy Corbin and all that stuff. He's very good. Character-wise, he's really good. In the ring, he's really good too, especially for a big guy. But I don't really see what he kind of adds to the roster at the moment, unless he's there to kind of elevate some talent, right? I wouldn't really see him they'll probably put the strap on him. I can't see them putting the strap on him and taking off Trick Williams to put it on Baron Corbin. That really makes no sense unless they're taking it off Trick Williams to push him into the title scene, which I don't see happening either. That's really the only direction that should go. He should just be putting him over, having some storyline, maybe forming a tag team, not with Bron Breakker, but forming another tag team. If they sign Dijak again, maybe putting the Skyscrapers in the WWE. The tag team division is dead. We've spoken about this a lot, and they need something. The Lucha Bros need to get back together after Penta drops the title to Gable at SummerSlam, and we'll see where they go with Baron Corbin. So he's obviously going to be feuding with. He'll probably have a match with Carmelo Hayes first, and then he'll call out Trick Williams as well. Now, burying Carmelo Hayes against Baron Corbin, is that the right thing to do? No, they haven't booked Carmelo Hayes well at all since joining the main roster. Trick Williams, they've strapped the rocket to. He's obviously very charismatic, and he's decent in the ring. I think he's kind of a bit overrated, to be very honest with you, but he's charismatic and he's got the look and he's very, very marketable. So that's one side of the things. If Trick loses to Corbin, then Trick has to win Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank, we'll talk about that in a second as well, because I've got something to say about that. And Stampede, my guy, thanks for joining us, mate. Last Friday looked more like Bishop Dyer than Baron Corbin as far as the reintroduction. Yeah, I think they're going to stick more towards that. They trademarked, not Lone Wolf. They trademarked something, the Nomad. They trademarked the Nomad, which is, I think, what he was going by. Bishop Dyer was the Nomad. I think that was his nickname. So they've trademarked that. So they've already announced him as Baron Corbin. Maybe he does come out as Bishop Dyer. I don't see that they're going to do that. I think he'll just stay as Baron Corbin. But the whole Nomad gimmick will be, and the lone soldier, lone wolf like he used to be, he'll go back to that kind of gimmick, which was his best gimmick anyway. When he first came in from NXT, they built him up quite well, and he was doing a really good job. And then he kind of went on all these other character arcs and all these other gimmicks. Now, Trick Williams winning the Money in the Bank. I think the Money in the Bank, there's a lot of people that could potentially win that. That's coming up in New Orleans, I believe, which isn't too far away either. So, because obviously they were supposed to get WrestleMania, then they moved it off, so they gave them the Money in the Bank. Trick Williams could be a guy. I really want to see it with Bron Breakker. That's who I want. I think Bron Breakker should be winning Money in the Bank. They need to put a title on Bron Breakker. That's what I think. If it's not going to be Bron Breakker, the absolute last chance, last ditch effort, throwing the sink at the wall, put the Money in the Bank, give it to LA Knight. You can't miss a boat on this guy anymore. Even if it's a short title run, 2-3 months, the guy needs it. He really does. Again, been the most over talent in the entire industry for the past 3 years nearly. And he's still over. No matter what they give this guy, he's going out on his back. He's getting pinned left, right, and center. Can't escape the bloodline bullshit and the vortex that they're in there, and the vision. The guy, he needs something. He really needs something. So I think if he doesn't get the Money in the Bank win this year, then it's just completely over for him, and he should probably leave, to be honest with you, because they're just doing nothing with the guy. For the past, I think, maybe 2 years, let's say, Money in the Bank, we're thinking, okay, they're giving it to LA Knight. Giving it to LA Knight. This is his time. This is his time. And then they miss the boat every single time. Every single time. So I would like to see Bron Breakker or LA Knight. Trick Williams isn't a bad idea either, but I don't think that they're going to... I don't think he's there at the moment. Is Australia part of the injunction of the Paramount Warner Bros. Discovery merger like the UK and the US? And what are your thoughts of Tony Khan reinstating the AEW Unified Championship? I'm not sure about Australia being part of it. I don't think that we are. We only got Paramount like streaming platform only a couple years ago. I'm not entirely sure, Jarrod. I don't know. Reinstating the AEW Unified Championship. The Unified Championship for me was just a complete wank to begin with. I don't know why it was so obvious when they announced it. You got international and the continental title. It literally is in the names, intercontinental title. It's that simple. They did this unified title. Okada won it, and then he lost the other belts. Now he's not the unified champion. I get what they mean by it, but it just means nothing. It's just another belt to have another belt. It means absolutely nothing. They should have just merged the international and continental titles and just made it intercontinental. It's really that simple. Too much wrestling, and that's it. We only got HBO Max last year. Yeah, last year HBO Max is, they've only kind of slowly rolled it out to us here in Australia. So I'm not sure what that merger has to do with Australia, if they're involved or not. But yeah, time will tell, I guess. But yeah, Baron Corbin, we'll see where he ends up with WWE and how this run kind of goes. We saw a vignette last night with Big Cass and Enzo. I released a video on this a few weeks ago where the rumors were coming out that they were coming over. And I can look at this from a few ways. Obviously, the tag team division, like we've said for a long time, is very bad. It's basically dead. There's no one there. Going off the angle that they did on Raw yesterday, I thought was a great angle. The Alpha Academy is one of the only, if not the only, tag teams in the entire company right now that is a legit tag team that can feud with the Vision. I don't know why they took the belts off the Street Profits so quickly, because they are, again, the only legit tag team in the entire company right now. Why they took it off them, I have no idea. And putting it back on the Vision. But it's obviously leading. They obviously did that for this kind of story that they're telling with Maxine. Now, I thought Maxine did when it started. Okay, so if you go look back at Raw last night, when Maxine was in the ring and she was handed the microphone, you see her kind of freeze. And I think she forgot her lines because she looked at Theory and Logan and she said, she had the mic down here so you couldn't hear it, but she said, "Oh my God." And she looked at them and I think she said, "I forgot my lines." And she went up to Fury and was just talking, and I'm pretty sure he was telling her what to say to remind her or whatever. She kind of froze. Luckily, the crowd were giving it to her, so it didn't look as bad. But I think she actually fucked up a big time there. Having said that, they did recover it. I like the angle they're doing with Alpha Academy. It makes sense. There's a feud there. There's an underlying story there. It can lead to things. So I like that. Taking it off the Street Profits was the entire wrong move. Entire wrong move. Again, the only legit tag team there. But where I was going with this, because the tag team is so dead, Big Cass and Enzo can reignite this as well. Obviously, the most entertaining people on the roster when they were there. I'll get to the comments before they get too outdated here. Don't you notice how much they're playing down Bron Breakker? It's a major problem. He should have main evented WrestleMania and won the title. 100%. I think he got derailed a lot because of his because of the injury that Seth Rollins had. I think they were going to pull the trigger 6 months ago and then they had to halt it. So he's just been in limbo for the past year. As I mentioned before, wondering if Bron was being punished for something backstage. He's having to be tag team champion now due to injuries to Reed and Logan, unfortunately. I don't know if it's more of him getting punished. I think it's more of WWE going to him and say, "Hey, these were the plans we had for you. Unfortunately, this fucked up, that fucked up. So you're just going to have to wear it for the next year until we tie a bow on the Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns kind of feud. Let them go at it. That's where we were leading anyway after you. Let them go at it. We've got the Vision now. Paul Heyman's leaving the Vision. Maxine's in there. So Paul Heyman's pretty much brushed them off. The Vision's going to be shut down. He's gone. So that's all gone. Until that all happens, Bron's just going to have to wear it. He's going to be pretty much wasting a year and a half of his career. But at the end of the day, you can't really do much about that. Again, I would like to see him in the main event scene, and I think he should be in the main event scene because I'm sick of the same people, and he's 40, 45, pushing 50-year-olds, and I can't stand seeing Punk anyway, so I don't want to see him there. But Bron has been held down. They're pushing these other guys. They're pushing guys like Trick as well. Obafemi's getting a mad push. Why is Bron Breakker not getting the push? Again, I think it's a matter of circumstance more than he's done something bad backstage. Bron likely moves on from the Vision if they drop the titles to Alpha Academy. Again, I think that's where it's leading. I think they're breaking up. What is the progress of the Australian independent wrestling scene? Jarrod, the Australian independent wrestling scene is basically on fire right now. This is our golden era of wrestling, and you're seeing that in all the major companies. We've got more Australians in WWE, AEW, TNA than we ever have before. And again, it's pretty much our golden generation. The Australian wrestling scene has been hot for a long time. Now, there's a lot of people, anyone who's come to Australia, any of these wrestlers that have come to Australia will tell you World Series Wrestling is they tour every year and they bring in all the kind of guys from outside the WWE, really. AEW, Ring of Honor guys, TNA guys, all the big names outside the WWE come and they mix it with the Australian wrestlers. They all say the exact same thing as how advanced, how good the Australian wrestlers are. They just don't get noticed as much, but they are getting noticed a lot more now. The two biggest talents on the indies right now have just signed with the WWE and they're off to America now, which is the, oh my God, I'm having a mental blank here. Adam, you know the name, the Dropouts. There you go. See, I didn't even have to say it. He's already wrote it. The Dropouts. They're going to be heading to NXT, and they are very, very entertaining. So this is our golden era of wrestling. Jarrod, if you look on YouTube, there's PWA. If you look at World Series Wrestling, just type that in. They actually streamed their whole tour only a few months ago, and they're doing another tour in October, I believe. Andrade, Sammy Guevara, Nick Nemeth, Karrion Kross, all of those guys are coming again. So check them out on YouTube because you'll really like it. I understand the idea, but how does that help Braun unless it destroys Fury and Logan? That's probably where it should. I think Fury's just going to waltz off with Maxine and they're just going to have their love story angle and they're just going to waltz off. They're not really going to address it. Bronson Reed, I think, is going to come back after his injury and, again, not even really address it unless he just comes and squashes someone. I think that it's just going to be one of those things that just falls by the wayside, not addressed. They all go their separate ways and then we just kind of forget about it. I think that's where it's going to end up. What are the chances of the Motor City Machine Guns and the New Day joining AEW and being part of All In London? I think there is a very good chance of that. I think I've been saying for a while, I think where they're leaning with that All In is going to be, it's going to be a ladder match with 5 or 6 teams for the titles and Motor City Machine Guns, New Day will be involved, or they might even just debut at All In. But I think that's where we're heading, and I think they'll both be there. Khan, the Dropouts. Yep, Adam, thanks for that. Does that mean you're going to watch NXT if the Dropouts are on there? The tag team division there needs a boost as well. I probably will, to be honest. I support all the Aussies. I watch Zarya whenever I can as well. I just pretty much watch her matches and that's it. Zarya is a girl. Naito coming as well. Yeah, Naito's coming as well to World Series Wrestling. They get some of the best talents there. They've had, in previous years, Ospreay, AJ Styles came, the Bucks, the Briscoes, I think Omega came as well, but they've had pretty much everyone down there. Yeah, I will watch and follow the Dropouts. They're really exciting. Aaron, if you go on YouTube and just type in the Dropouts, I'm sure you'll see their entrance, and that's why they're so over. The song, the crowd gets involved. It's really good stuff. Just look at them on YouTube. So yeah, they're heading over to NXT. NXT will be a good place for them. They're definitely not ready for the main roster. I don't think they've got a lot to learn. They're only young guys as well, coming straight from the Indies here in Australia. But I think they'll do very well in WWE because they are entertaining. So Enzo and Cass coming into that division will, I think, ignite it pretty heavily. Mainly for the fact that Enzo is very, very entertaining. They give him a mic and he'll just make shit happen like he did before. Cass, I think, is a very, very underrated big man. I've been saying that for a long, long time. And I think he's going to turn out to be one of the guys that you can say that AEW fumbled. Fumbled is a very overused word, but I think it is because he's got all the tools, this guy. He looks like $1 million. He's a monster. He's 7 foot tall. He's in much, much better shape than what he was in WWE back then. Obviously, because he's cleaned up his lifestyle, but he is an absolute monster. As a big man, he's athletic, he's fast, he's quick, looks like a badass, he's believable as a badass. He cuts a really good promo. He's very, very underrated, this promo. Some people don't like it, but his intensity that he brings through his promos are really, really good. And I think he's going to kill it there. I really do, and I hope he does. New Day will appear before to set it up. It's Sheamus who would debut as one-off at All In the Casino Gauntlet. I can see that happening as well. I think New Day, I think their 90 days is up at Redemption, so they might even debut at Redemption to lead to All In. Again, I still think that's heading to a ladder match with like a 6-pack ladder match. They did that a few years ago with the trios titles, I think, where it was Lucha Bros, Death Triangle, House of Black, and Christian with Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus. So they've done it before, and I think they'll do it again, and it will involve, obviously, Cage and Cope. FTR will probably return the New Day, Motor City Machine Guns, and probably the Dogs because they're in that little angle as well, and maybe the Bang Bang Gang. PWA shows are really fun to watch. They are. Jarrod, what do you think of the concept Chaos is a ladder match? AEW's version of TLC with a pinch of Game of Thrones for good measure. I've never actually seen Game of Thrones. A lot of people hated me for that, but I've never actually seen it. That medieval shit really isn't for me. But I need to check it out because apparently it is an unreal show. Cassian ring work left a lot to be desired when he was last in WWE. Haven't seen any of him since so. Aaron, he's improved a lot. Even when he went to TNA, his TNA run was really, really good. When it was Morrissey, W. Morrissey. And then he came into AEW. His work in AEW was really good. There was a point in AEW when he was with Chris Jericho that he was extremely, extremely over. When they came to Australia for the first time in the first Grand Slam a couple of years ago, they were on the Ring of Honor portion of the show to start. And outside of maybe Edge's entrance, I would say, he was the most over talent on the entire show. If you go, it was Global Wars Australia back then. It'll be on AEW somewhere. Watch AEW, or it'll be on somewhere. I think it's even on YouTube. We were chanting for Big Bill the whole time, waiting for the hot tag. And he even turned around thinking like, fuck, I'm really over here. It was crazy. And his work was really good. In the ring, compared to what you saw in his first run in WWE, you'll see it's chalk and cheese. He's improved out of sight. And even if you look at his body, he used to be like flabby, no abs, like wasn't in the best of shape. Now he's a fucking monster, absolute monster. So I think they can add a lot to this division. I really do. So get them in there, get the Lucha Brothers in there, heat up the Street Profits, and if you've got guys in NXT that can come up, push them up. But we need to reignite this tag division because it's completely dead. We need some more focus. It seems to me in the WWE right now, again, and this has been their problem for ages, their focus is always on the main guys, and everything else doesn't really have much direction. And the divisions don't have much direction. Like the women's division, the women's tag division is just like, who gives a shit, really? And it shouldn't be like that. It really shouldn't. It's the same in AEW as well. The women's tag division is just more of an afterthought. If you're going to have titles, if you're going to have divisions, you've got to make them interesting, right? Okay, Jarrod, if and when you watch Game of Thrones, it should warn you that this show can trigger your emotions. There will be some characters on the show you would loathe and despise. That's a good thing about having a show. I'm actually rewatching Breaking Bad at the moment. I watched it before, but I'm watching it with my girlfriend now because she's never seen it. And it's the same thing. At the start, you hate Skylar, and then she comes around, and that's a great thing about TV shows. If it's a good TV show, it makes you want to fucking kill him. So I love that. I've heard there's a lot of raunchy scenes in Game of Thrones as well. I might check it out. We'll see how we go. So yeah, WWE, I think the lead to SummerSlam, like I said, it's going to be, on paper, it's going to be good. I think it's going to be actually blow WrestleMania out the water. Heading to the AEW side now, we spoke last week about the follow-up that they had from the pay-per-view, and it was probably the best follow-up that AEW has ever done. It really was. It was just a home run show. For me, it was an absolute home run. There was nothing on Beach Break that was bad. And again, much like WWE did with Raw yesterday, nothing you can really complain about. It was a home run. Now, there was a lot of discourse around Kenny Omega winning the World Championship and if it was the right move, if it was not the right move. I was always of the belief that Kenny Omega was going to win. I thought that there was going to be an interference by Hangman. Hangman obviously returned to Collision. We'll touch on Hangman in a second. But the Kenny Omega aspect, I have no problem with this whatsoever because for the main thing that everyone knows Will Ospreay is going to be winning the title at All In. That is very, very predictable. It isn't a good thing that the main event is going to be predictable, but that's where we're heading. We all know that that's where we're heading. Having Kenny Omega have a short title run, get his little title run out the way, because the story was, can I get there again? Can I reach the mountaintop again? He's got there. He's got the underlying story with Will Ospreay that they've been telling for the past few months, which can say that this wasn't a knee-jerk reaction, a knee-jerk title change, and they just change it, and maybe MJF injured and all that. They've been telling this story for months and months and months. Okay, so this is obviously the plan, and the reports came out that this is actually MJF's idea as well to drop it at Beach Break. So I don't think there's any issues backstage or anything like that. Now, why this serves a purpose, again, Kenny Omega reaches the mountaintop again. He can prove, oh, okay, I'm the best in the world again, blah, blah, blah. Then he drops it to Will Ospreay and he passes the torch in that way. And then Omega's not going to get a title run again, I don't think. Anyway, he gets his last title run, gets it out the way, couple of months, drops it to Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay beating Kenny Omega at All In. Number one, he's one of it's one of the biggest feuds that came out of Japan. Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, the first Forbidden Door, they had their second match, was a banger. The one they had in New Japan was one of the best matches I've ever seen, and they're going to do it again. So in terms of the match quality, it's going to be fucking unreal. Probably the best match you'll ever seen in a long time. So there's no issues there. Number two, again, it ties a bow on their story. So Kenny Omega losing to Will Ospreay does nothing bad for Kenny Omega. A Kenny Omega loss to Will Ospreay does a lot less damage than a MJF loss to Will Ospreay does at Wembley, especially after flip-flopping the title between Darby, winning it back, and then he wins it back, and then he loses it again to Will Ospreay. It does nothing for MJF. So losing it to Kenny Omega in the fashion that he did as well, with the cheating angle and all that stuff, the way they did it was perfect. Losing it at Beach Break is much less damaging than losing it at All In the main event to Will Ospreay. Everyone knows he's going to lose it anyway, in my opinion. So it serves a purpose. Kenny Omega gets out the way. MJF can go on another character arc. I think Hangman's going to get involved. And it's going to end up being Hangman and MJF at All In. So whether he's in the main event or not in the main event, MJF is still going to be there. MJF is still going to be a massive part of the show, a massive part of the story. Another caveat to this, where I only thought about the other day. All In will be 1 year since we've seen Adam Cole. There hasn't been much update on his health. Apparently, day by day, he's getting better. The Young Bucks came out and said this a couple weeks ago on their live stream as well on their YouTube, when someone asked a question. Apparently, he's taking it day by day and he's getting better. We haven't heard about him. We haven't seen anything on him. He hasn't tweeted. It's like he's just gone into the darkness. What's to say that he's not healthy again, that he's not ready again, and he comes back and we reignite that MJF Adam Cole feud as well with Hangman Page? So obviously there's a history of Hangman and Adam Cole, and does he get involved in this? So there's a lot of ways that this can go. Again, I don't have any problems with Kenny Omega holding the title because it's going to be a transitional run and transitional champion. And we get the belt on Will Ospreay finally at All In. And in terms of the numbers and all that type of shit that people like to talk about, that MJF's biggest numbers draw and all that stuff, yes, he is, but it's not going to, having a belt on Will Ospreay it's not going to be a detrimental thing. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. You've also got the underlying story there with the Death Riders and Will Ospreay and Moxley. What I think this is going to lead to, obviously down the road, it's going to lead to a Moxley and Ospreay match. Like, that's 100%, right? How we get there is up for debate. What I think it should happen and what I think is going to happen, I think Ospreay should be turning heel. That's what I really think. I think he should be turning heel once he gets a belt. Kenny Omega, face versus face, has a match. They win. Kenny raises his arm. The Death Riders come out. Death Riders celebrate with him. Moxley's over the moon because he got to the mountaintop. Ospreay takes a belt, smashes Moxley. Death Riders stand there, and then they all turn on Mox because Ospreay has now got his patch. Ospreay is now part of the group. Ospreay is now the king of the mountain with the AEW championship. Moxley is not needed anymore, so they turn on Moxley. The same kind of thing that they did with Bryan Danielson. I think that's where they should head. Ospreay should just go on a mega heel run. And then Moxley should just go on his other character arc. Chase the title, but he shouldn't win. We should keep it on Ospreay, and then MJF should eventually take it back. Or if it's not going to be MJF, the guys that they're pushing into the scene should be elevated into the title scene. I don't want to see AEW fall into the trap that WWE is, where we're putting the belts on repeat on the same guys. You've got so many guys that haven't held the title yet, haven't had a run yet. That can be very, very interesting. And they're at the top of the card now, and now is the time to pull the trigger on these guys. Said this before, said this for a few weeks now, the AEW title scene is better than it's ever been, in my opinion. I can't recall the title scene being as prevalent in terms of new challenges, who's going to win the belt, who can realistically win the belt, the underlying stories that MJF has with the Don Callis family, the underlying stories that Will Ospreay has with the Death Riders, Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. There's so many ways that this can go. Outside of Will Ospreay, who's obviously going to be getting their belt, you've got MJF, you've got Kenny Omega, you've got Jon Moxley, who's in the kind of, I guess, storyline right now. Then you've got guys like Kevin Knight, who's announced himself. You've got guys like Andrade, who's announced himself. You've got guys like Takeshita, who's just lost the belt to Kyle Fletcher. They'll have another blow-off match. And then what's to say Takeshita doesn't go for that title? There's so many guys in this title thing. And then we've got the return of Jay White as well. Jay White is back. Jay White is eventually going to get a title run. Jay White is unreal. So many guys that can be pushed into that scene that is going to be new. We've got Grand Slam Mexico coming up. I actually wouldn't mind playing hot potato with this World Championship at the moment. Getting these guys title runs, seeing what they can do. Because this is another thing with MJF as well, where I think that they've moved the belt. It's to build the accolades as well. Same thing that WWE is doing with Cody Rhodes. Drop the belt, win it back a couple of months later, drop the belt, win it back a couple of months later. Instead of being a former WWE champion or a former AEW champion, now all of a sudden in the space of 2 years, you're a 3-time, 4-time champion. It's about building those accolades as well, which I think is what they're doing. And I wouldn't mind them, again, playing hot potato with this championship to give these new guys a new run and just give some fresh television. Having the same champions all the time, it isn't fresh, it isn't new. It'd be very, very interesting to see what happens now that CM Punk has a belt and Roman Reigns has a belt, so arguably the two biggest draws in the entire company in the WWE, what this does for the numbers, for the Netflix numbers, for the not pay-per-view numbers, but for the ticket sales. It'll be interesting to see, because at the moment, since the titles have changed, obviously there was the World Cup and all that type of stuff as well, which did kind of, obviously it's definitely going to hinder the ratings and things. So I think last week's Raw, if it comes out, should be coming out today, I think. When that comes out, it's going to be very, very low. But it'll be interesting to see heading into SummerSlam where those numbers go. Same thing with AEW. It's going to be interesting to see this week if there is a drop-off, what the drop-off is going to be like now that MJF doesn't have the belt and it's on Kenny Omega. I don't think it's going to be much of a drop-off at all, but I could be wrong. So the other, obviously, main news coming out this week, which is a video I dropped the other day, the fan interaction with CM Punk and the little kid in the hotel. Now, just to not to rehash the story I've already told and the video I already dropped, but basically my thoughts on the situation is you should not follow wrestlers, you should not hound wrestlers in the hotel, on the street, going up to them on the phone, putting it in their face and all that type of stuff. That's wrong. I would never say that that's the right thing to do, right? Having said that, number one, if it's a little kid, you got to have a bit of leniency because it's a little kid. They're heroes. And we've all been in that situation where we get excited. I get excited, I geek out, and I'm 29 years old. So I only imagine a 10-year-old, which I've seen before. I've also told the story before about Jey Uso in the lobby when the kid went up to him and he completely brushed him off, which I thought was bad. So going up to them and hounding them is not the right thing to do, and that's off limits. I get that. It's yet to be, there's no footage of what happened before the interaction, before the mother started filming and all that stuff. The kid didn't seem too distraught. The mum and the brother were kind of making it a bit more of a big deal than what it looked like. But I can only speak to my experience. And in my experience with him, with the story that I told, is like we're walking into the same elevator. I literally cannot avoid the interaction. So just to acknowledge the people that are trying to speak to you and just say hello. I get it, you're tired and all that stuff, but you don't have to be a dick. Everyone else was talking to us in the elevator. Bailey made a joke of us. Like, you don't have to be a fucking dick. Now, obviously, I've been outspoken. I don't like the guy. Even before that interaction, I didn't like the guy. But that just kind of capped it off for me. So I don't know what you think about the whole fan interaction and all of that. But this just goes back to, and we'll touch on his interview as well. So he had the interview with Stephanie McMahon. I don't really know why people watch these interviews where it's clearly a WWE shilling podcast like the Rosenberg, Rosenberg guy. Is it Adam or Peter Rosenberg, whatever he's called? I can't stand that guy either. He is the biggest shill there is, and he pretends that he's not. So I can't stand that guy. I don't really understand why people listen to those kind of podcasts, like the AEW podcasts like they used to do. It's just, they're obviously biased, and they're obviously not going to be telling the truth, or they're just going to be told what to say or whatever. So it doesn't make any sense. The Stephanie McMahon thing is the same thing. They act as if it's a whole, oh, I'm getting to know you kind of thing, but they're not going to say, they're under a bit of a stranglehold because it's the WWE podcast. So I don't really get why people listen to it anyway. What he did say in the interview, again, which is my problem with him, which is why I can't stand the guy. He's a hypocrite. He talks, everything he's ever said, he's gone back on, and he's just a flip-flopping, he's just as fake as they come. And it's not in character. It's not any of this, oh, he's in character. You can't blame that. Anything this guy's ever said, in character, out of character, he just talks shit. And one of the other things in this interview, which he said, after he left AEW and he was on the Ariel Helwani podcast, and they were talking about how he left and what happened there and all this shit, he was basically saying about, hey, AEW is not a real business. They don't care about the money. I'm there to draw houses. And the main thing he said there was guaranteed money ruined wrestling. Guaranteed money ruined the business, because if these guys were basing their paychecks off the house or off the work they do, it'd be a much different story in AEW because there's no guaranteed money. Then he goes on the Stephanie McMahon podcast and says pretty much verbatim that his goal and why he's back in the WWE is to get the younger guys to work less and get paid more, which in turn, translation means guaranteed money. So again, he's flip-flopping. Again, he's trying to have it both ways. And depending on where he is or the environment he is, he just says different shit. And there's a ton of examples of this, even with the kid in the hotel room and the people coming up to him and all this type of shit. There's tons of examples of him where he acts like he's this self-righteous man of the people kind of thing, and then he brushes people off. Same thing with the Saudi Arabia. He said all this shit that he had to go to Saudi Arabia because he's got nowhere left to run, and he gets told what to do, and he acts like he doesn't. And then he apologizes and this and that. He's just I just can't stand the guy. So if you want to watch those kind of interviews, go ahead, by all means, watch it. But again, flip-flopping CM Punk. Aaron, you're right about fresh champions. I'm usually very patient, but I was so angry to see Cody getting yet another title match. Glad AEW doesn't do that. That is again, that's been the problem with WWE for a long time now. It's the same thing on repeat. It's the same people on repeat. Give us something new. Give us something fresh. Take some risks. They took a risk with Sami Zayn, and for nine days, that's not a risk. That's just handing someone a medal of appreciation, saying thank you for what you've done. You're going to have this as an accolade on your resume, and then thank you very much. See you later. We're going back to the money makers. It's boring. It's very, very boring. We need fresh talent in there. When are they going to push fresh talent in there? I've said this for a long, long time. The WWE right now, for the past 7 years, if you look at it, for the past 5 to 7 years, it's been the exact same people on repeat. Virtually the exact same people on repeat. There's nothing new. There's nothing fresh. The new stars that are supposed to be getting pushed up are continuously held down because the guys at the top of the card are always hogging the top of the card. And it gets boring after a while. And that is why the product's stale. That's why the ticket sales are slow. That's why the product is colder than it's ever been. I actually did a little poll on my Twitter yesterday and on my X as well. And it's interesting to see the vote so far. The question was, although they're making as much money as they've ever made, they've made the most profits, most revenue that they've ever made in the WWE right now, is the Netflix era the worst creative era of the WWE history? So you look at Netflix era, PG era, ruthless aggression era, attitude era, and if you can call it the golden era. Which has the worst creative direction out of all of those? I think the Netflix era wins by a landslide, to be very honest with you. Outside of the original Bloodline, other than that, we haven't really had anything good. The original Bloodline, the story of Cody Rhodes finishing his story. Outside of that, what have they given us? That's actually a decent story. That's actually decent creative. It's been very, very, not so much hit and miss, just miss miss and then maybe a hit here and there. I think creatively, it's probably the worst period that they've had. Money-wise, you can always point to money and profits and this and that, but it's easy to make profits when you're the WWE. I make this comparison all the time. The WWE is McDonald's and AEW is In-N-Out Burger. No matter In-N-Out Burger, I've never had In-N-Out. I'm going to America at the end of the year, but I will be. In-N-Out Burger, by all accounts, is the best burgers in America. They're the best fast food. They taste unreal. They shit all over everything else. But at the end of the day, they're not McDonald's. McDonald's are always going to print money. They're always going to be the biggest and baddest company out there. No matter what they do, no matter the shit they serve you, no matter the price that they charge you for it, they're always going to be number one. It's the same thing with WWE, AEW, TNA, all these other companies that come up. They're never going to be at the level of WWE in terms of revenue. Doesn't matter what the shit that they serve you, you're going to eat it because it's WWE. That's just how it is. PG era was tough to get through. The authority made everything terrible. PG era and Netflix era, I think, are the ones that are kind of on the tee for me as the toss-up as the worst eras. In that, yeah, they're the kind of toss-ups. But the PG era did obviously run for longer as well. The Netflix era has only been a couple of years. But in terms of the era that we're in now, I don't think anyone can say that it's a fantastic creative direction. I don't think anyone can say that. So there's, again, a lot of kind of issues, a lot of things to discuss in both companies right now. And we're at a bit of a, not a crossroads, but we're at a time of the year where both companies need to be hitting their straps creatively. And coming out of Raw last night, coming out of Beach Break last week, I think hopefully leading up to these big events in SummerSlam and All In, although the ticket sales are slow and things like that, on paper, I think they're going to deliver. On the AEW side of things, Redemption is coming up. That's only 2 weeks away, I believe. Ticket sales are very, very slow for that as well. By Showtime, they'll probably end up having about 7,500 maybe. It's a massive arena. The top deck will probably be all closed off. But it's the first one. You can kind of give them a bit of leeway. It's in Montreal as well. Having said that, I don't think that they need another pay-per-view in this time. I thought that without it, they'll be just fine. It'd be much better served building these angles, building these big matches, building to All In on Dynamite to give you something to watch on Dynamite. Even Collision. Collision's been really, really good this year as well. It's picked up a lot. The viewership's gone up as well. They had the return of Hangman advertised for Collision. Again, the World Cup is throwing a bit of spanner in the works at the moment because a lot of people, obviously the World Cup's going to be number one in terms of viewership and things like that. So they're going to try and counteract that as much as they can. But I think they'll be much better served putting these stories and storylines and paying off these things on the weekly television rather than throwing another pay-per-view in there for the sake of throwing another pay-per-view in there. I don't think Redemption is needed. Again, AEW pay-per-views, they always deliver. If you're looking at AEW's pay-per-view catalog, I've said this before as well, there's no comparison. Any company in the history of wrestling has never had a run like AEW has. They've literally been doing pay-per-views for 7 years, and maybe the only one you could say not even was bad, was maybe like a 6 out of 10, was World's End, the first World's End. That was like okay, but it wasn't bad. So the run that they do on pay-per-views is always just incredible. Aaron Singh, as a lot of older mid-card guys running down a lot of what goes on now. Bob Holly, Val Venus, Bully Ray, Stevie, Richards, EC. Do you think any of them have good reason to just play? Now, what I will say to you, Aaron, Bob Holly, that account is fake. That's not actually Bob Holly. Yeah, that account's fake. It's changed its name, I think 15 times, and it's based in India, I believe. So it's not actually Bob Holly. Val Venus, Bully Ray, Stevie Richards. Yeah, do you think any of them have good reason or just complaining? Now, Bully Ray, I can't stand either. He's just another guy that is, if you listen to Busted Open, number one, he's very, very biased. Number one. Number two, a lot of the points he makes these points and he says these ideas and creative ideas and these points to sound like that they're so like off the wall or just so kind of out of nowhere, or just the way he says it like he's some kind of philosopher that he's a fucking genius. Oh, I think it should be like this. And I just can't stand the guy. I really can't. And he's the most egotistical fucking guy in the industry. And pretty much every wrestler will. I don't think I've ever seen someone go on an interview and go, "Oh, Bully Ray, yeah, I like that guy." Nobody likes the guy. Devon, everyone loves him. Bully Ray, everyone says the same thing. He's a fucking arrogant prick. And he can say that he's one of those guys that tries to live his gimmick at all times and things like that. But I can't stand the guy. So I don't really listen to Bully Ray's opinion too much. Val Venus, he's a bit of a weird character. He's a bit off the wall. Stevie Richards, I listen to almost every week. Stevie Richards, again, I've said this before as well. That James Romero that he does it with, I listen to him on and off as well. But he annoys the shit out of you too, that James Romero. He acts like he knows everything. He's he's one of the boys. He's just on obviously a higher level, and I'll probably never reach that level, but he's just a guy like me with a camera. It's got nothing to do with the industry. He sucks up the asses of whoever he can to further himself, and that's great. Like, good on him. But Stevie Richards, I think is, I like a lot of what he says, but it seems to me that he's a guy that looks at clips and he doesn't actually watch the product or whatever, and he just goes off the hype of what people are saying online and expands on that. But what I will say about Stevie Richards, he seems like a guy that has a lot of, obviously he does have a lot of knowledge of the industry because he's been in it for a long time. He's got some good stories as well. I actually like Stevie Richards quite a bit, and his breakdown of the techniques and things like that are pretty cool as well. I actually think now he's been very outspoken about WWE and AEW, so I don't think any of them would actually hire him. Doesn't really have a good relationship with the WWE anyway, from all accounts, and from what he said as well. But I think he's a guy that could be very, very useful to a company in like a producer role, and how to structure matches and psychology and things like that. I think he could be very, very useful in that regard. I listen to his podcast whenever I can. Some of the topics he does are just not really interesting, so I just don't watch it. But a lot of the time when he does like the fan questions and things like that, I would watch it if I was you. So check him out. But a lot of the time, this is the problem with like the old guard of wrestling. A lot of the time, it's back in my day this, back in my day that, we used to do this, we used to do that. Times change, the business evolves. It's like with anything, not just wrestling, sport evolves. Like even if you go, Aaron, I'm sure you're probably a soccer fan. Or if you look at soccer, if you look at football, if you look at NBA, NFL, whatever, Aussie rules over here, you look at a guy like, for example, in the NBA, for example, like there's always obviously the debate with LeBron and Jordan and things like that. You can insert guys that were great players in soccer, for example. You can insert guys that were great players back in the day, great defenders. Defenders are a really good example, right? You look at guys that are great defenders back in the day. Would they excel in 2026 playing in the World Cup now? A lot of them probably not, because the game has changed. There's a lot more playing out from the back. It's a lot more fast paced. There's a lot less long balls. It's a lot less kind of physical as it was back then. The game changes. Just like wrestling, the industry changes. People want different things. This is one of the things that a lot of these guys talk about. This is how we used to structure matches. There's too much flipping. There's too much no-sell of finishes. The ratings were this, the ratings were that. We were drawing these houses. Everything is different to 1975. And the reason is, number one, there's more options. If we're talking about viewership, you had TV, it was on TV, and that's all you had. There was no, you weren't listening to the radio, there was no Netflix, there was no internet, there was no mobile phones, there was none of that shit. So you had to go home, you put your TV on, whatever's on you're watching, the whole family's there, there's nothing else to do. So that's number one. That's in terms of the viewership and things like that. Number two, the big thing about wrestling that a lot of these guys miss, and a lot of these guys complain about, and they think it's back in the day this, back in the day that. In the 80s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, even leading up to like the Attitude Era, at that time, the internet wasn't breaking news left, right, and center. Everyone knows what's going on before it even happens. There wasn't people online talking this and that. There wasn't any ratings discourse or look at the numbers here, look at the houses that they're doing here. There was none of that. And especially in the 70s and 80s, a lot more people went to the shows and things like that because it was obviously new coming up and people got excited about it and things like that. But not that they thought it was real, but the kayfabe wasn't like it is today, where you got people going in interviews and saying, oh yeah, like we're all buddy, or you got photos online of a heel and a face together. That never happened. So it was much more, the lines were blurred a lot more back then. So it's never going to go back to that. It's never going to change. Everyone, as soon as if you mention WWE to a guy that's not a fan at the moment, like Aaron, you said your mates aren't wrestling fans at all. And a lot of mine aren't. I've got a few that are. But you mentioned, oh, where you going? I go, oh, I've gone to the wrestling, gone to Perth for the wrestling. I'm going to see WWE. You go, WWE? Really? Like, you know that's fake, right? Like, they just don't get it. Back in the 70s, it wasn't like that. Hulk Hogan back then and Andre the Giant, they looked at these guys like absolute monsters, superstars. They can kill anyone. It's a complete different ball game in 2026. So some of the reasoning that they have is good, but a lot of it is just complaining because they're stuck in the old times, and it's the old. You see the old man at the corner store and he's like, back in my day, this and that. But your day's gone, mate. It's over. Times change. Things change. And again, it's not even just with sports, like with anything. It's with technology. It's with food. It's with anything. It's just how it is. So a lot of them do like to complain. But again, times change and you have to move the times. Again, I think both companies are doing a good job leading to these big events coming up, and it's just about carrying that momentum forward. Guys, like one thing I want to touch on as well, Sheamus released a video about this as well. Now, Sheamus coming into AEW, I would like to see him in more of a sporadic role, showing up here and there, rather than a full-time wrestler. So if he comes in at All In, because that was a question that's I think Adam had before, showing up at All In, I think him in the Casino Gauntlet would be a big pop because obviously he's from the UK. He can do something there. But just popping up here and there is what he needs. He shouldn't be a full-time wrestler. We don't need older guys clogging up this scene, especially when it's so hot right now. So I'm excited for All In. They haven't really announced pretty much anything for the card at the moment. Outside of, obviously, you've got Tekla and Mercedes and Kenny and Ospreay at the moment. I think where they're going to be leading to this with All In is going to be MJF and Hangman. I think they're going to have something. It's going to be a kind of six-pack ladder match, I think, for the World Tag Team Championships. Leading into All In, so we're having this discussion as well with Survivor Series being announced. Now, Survivor Series being announced is again, War Games. It's one of those things, it's War Games and Blood and Guts with AEW. They have a lot of the same problems. Now, when you've got this type of match scheduled on a calendar for September, October, whenever you're doing it, right? What these, especially the WWE is even worse for this, right? They have War Games and there's no stories, there's no feuds. It's just, there's nothing going on until about 3-4 weeks before, and then, oh, we're going to go to War Games and we're going to kill you. It shouldn't just be, okay, we have to fill up a War Games match. It has to be this type of cage match, a double cage or whatever. So now we have to put some stories towards this, right? You have to have some focus going into it. You have to have it mean something. That's number one. Number two, WWE just shouldn't do War Games in general because it's not War Games, it's kindergarten games. There's no blood, there's nothing hardcore, nothing cool. You have a table and a chair to the back and a kendo stick, and that's about it. That's not War Games, that's not hardcore. Blood and Guts, they go balls to the fucking wall. They rip up the ring. There's thumbtacks, there's glass, there's fire, there's fucking everything. There's blood left, right, and center. If you're going to have Blood and Guts, if you're going to have War Games, that's how it should be. Don't give me this PG bullshit. Just don't do it. If you're not going to go to that length for a War Games, just don't do the War Games. The Hell in a Cell with Bron Breakker or the cage match with Bron Breakker and Seth Rollins. On Netflix, they're blurring out Bron Breakker's face because he had blood on it. On Netflix. So what is a War Games going to achieve? What's that going to do? It's just is completely fucking pointless, right? Blood and Guts, I'm a fan of the concept. I love all that hardcore stuff. I love the concept of the double cage and the whole concept of the team versus team. But it has to be team versus team, not just there's two guys from this team and there's a random guy who's got beef with another guy in the other team and this and that. It's just should be two teams, two factions, one-on-one, blood feuds, whatever it is. I think this year for AEW, for Blood and Guts, it should be the Bang Bang Gang versus the Dogs, the War Dogs, and get some guys from New Japan in there and introduce them now. Not 2-3 weeks before it starts, introduce them to the story now. That's what I think it should be, because that's the only thing that really makes sense. After Jay White has returned, you got the Jay White and David Finlay feud. You got the break off of the War Dogs and the break off of the Bullet Club. Makes sense. And those guys will put on a really good match. That's how it should be for Blood and Guts. For War Games, it's only leaning one way. Bloodline version 1 versus Bloodline version 47. And again, this whole Bloodline, be very outspoken about this, just fucking end it already. It's so overdone at the moment. We're probably going to have a Zila Fatu debut in here. And the story they're telling now with Jacob, Jimmy and Jay going up against LA Knight, Solo, Royce Keys. Is Royce Keys going to join Solo Sikoa? Does that make sense at all? No, it doesn't. What's he got to do with the Bloodline? Someone said the other day that Rikishi, their dad, trained Royce Keys, and that's why he's involved. He's a friend of the family and all that stuff. But he's not the Bloodline. Like, none of this makes sense. LA Knight being involved, he's got the beef with them. What are they going to do? They're going to do Solo's team versus the Jacob Fatu and Jimmy and Jay's team. And then they're probably going to join up together. Just end this shit already. We're over it. The same shit. It's been the same shit for the past 3-4 years. Just fucking end it. After the Sami Zayn saga, after all that broke up, everything's just gone downhill from there. Solo Sikoa. I had this conversation with someone the other day. If you look at Solo Sikoa when it was first introduced, in Clash when he came and he helped Roman and he came into the original Bloodline with Sami Zayn before the whole breakup, before the MFTs, before any of that shit, right? When Solo Sikoa came into the business, he was the biggest on the roster. He had aura, number one. He was a guy that nobody wanted to fuck with. Roman Reigns didn't even want to step out of line against Solo. He just stood there, didn't have to speak, commanded respect, and everyone was scared of him. They built him great, and we're thinking, this is going to lead somewhere good. He's going to turn on Roman, and it's going to be great. They're going to kick him out. It's going to lead to another thing. After that, he goes out, goes to the MFTs, and then they just turn him into a complete fucking geek. He loses all the time. He was more of a comedy guy with his promos and everything like that. He wasn't serious anymore. Comes out looking like a fucking idiot in his red suit and the gloves. No aura whatsoever. The MFTs have been shut down. Half of them have left. The other half are probably going to be on their way out too. And then they're just repeating this story with, I'm going to join back. No, I'm not. Now they're getting Royce Keys involved. What they've done to Solo Sikoa from what he was is a disgrace. The booking has been absolutely fucking dismal for him. And I fear it's going to happen the same with Jacob Fatu, and it's going to happen the same if they bring in Zila Fatu. Jacob, I'm a bit more confident in, just because they've built him coming in a little bit differently and a bit more of a guy that they think that they can kind of strap the rocket to. But I think given his past and his aesthetic, I don't think they're going to actually strap the rocket to him and actually give him the ball to be the guy who runs the company. I don't think they're going to do that. I really don't. So I think this whole Bloodline bullshit just needs to end. Solo, they just all need to go their separate ways. Forget the Bloodline. If they want to tag together, you got Jimmy and Jake, you got Solo and Jacob, for example. Have them tag together. No worries. Get some tag teams in there. But just the whole Bloodline thing and the MFTs and the my group and your group and this and that, just fucking end it. It's done. It's dusted. You can't reheat these nachos again, because it's like microwaving a pizza. It's not the same as you get it the first time. Not the same. So leading into Survivor Series and War Games, it'll be interesting to see what they do, but I think that's where we're heading. Blood and Guts, I think, is obviously much more entertaining. Someone was saying the other day, what's the difference between Blood and Guts and Survivor Series? How does a hardcore spot, how does Blood make it more better? And the answer is it's way, way, way more entertaining. What are you watching? If you're going to have a war game, you got to have blood. You got to have crazy shit, or else what's the point? Doesn't make any sense. The war game should just finish. They should go back to just 5-on-5 Survivor Series matches, or Survivor Series should just, I don't know if they want to close it down altogether, but it has to be rejigged. Because I think the war games thing is it just doesn't work in the WWE. It really doesn't. So that was the main stories coming out of this week. A lot of stories. So I think leading into SummerSlam, leading into All In, I think there's going to be a lot of underlying stories that are coming out in the next few weeks. We're going to have Nick Aldis return to the ring. We're going to have a bit of focus, hopefully, on SmackDown now with CM Punk over there with Cody Rhodes. And the Roman and Seth Rollins feud is going to heat up. So I think the television leading up to in the next 3 weeks is going to be really, really good for Raw. I hope they don't drop the ball. And hopefully SmackDown kind of picks up their pace as well, because SmackDown's been lacking a bit. But now with the inclusion of CM Punk over there as well with the feud with Cody, I think that's going to reignite it. And it's going to be very interesting to see if AEW drops the ball or if they keep this momentum going into All In after Redemption with Kenny Omega as a champion. And if they can maintain their ratings hike and their ratings increase over the past kind of couple of months. It's been really good for them in 2026, but can they maintain it? So that was the main stories coming out of this week. Check out the channel, guys. I've dropped a few videos over the last week, and I'll probably be doing some maybe once or twice before the next stream. The numbers are really good on the stream as well. We're getting new people in here every week. The numbers are going up every single week. But as always, guys, if you can please share the stream, the YouTube link on your Twitter or Facebook or wherever you've got. Share it with your friends. Invite everyone over as much as you can. We're building this community as much as we can. We're slowly getting to the goal that we want to get to. I'm trying to monetize the channel. So hopefully in the next 6 months we can do that. We're about 1,000 watch hours away. So we're 2/4 of the way there. So we're nearly there. Invite your friends over. Let's talk wrestling. Hit me up on Twitter if you want to talk as well. A lot of interaction on there over the past couple of months. It's been really, really good for me on Twitter there. But we'll see you guys all next week. And we may even be doing some other streams during the week as well, which we're trying to figure out as well. So new intro this week, and there's going to be hopefully a lot more new stuff dropping as well to get more interactive with you guys. Maybe even some live phone calls or recorded voice messages that I'll play on the show that I'll answer you guys as well. As the chat does grow, and I can't get to every comment, probably in the next 6 months if we keep going the way we're going, without doing super chats or anything like that, I might get some voice recording messages in here to play for you guys and answer on the stream. So again, invite your friends over, share the stream, like the video if you haven't already. That really helps the algorithm. And just share it as much as you can, guys. And we'll see you guys all next week. Love yous all. Thanks for watching.
And now we are going live with the best pro wrestling community in the world. A safe space for all wrestling fans to come together and love pro wrestling. You have now entered the Mark Zone.